1470 96.9 FM. Les habla Lilia Galindo, me acompaña el día de hoy el doctor Jordan Goines del Distrito Escolar de Lancaster y tiene algunas invitadas. Okay, Dr. Goines, could you please introduce, good morning first, and could you please introduce your guest?
Well, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to last week the last time we were on, there was a conversation of the possibility of us bringing on some of our other staff members that have some answers having to do with our special education, our students with disability population in Lancaster School District, and I wanted to make sure that was addressed and that we were able to bring some good people in to be able to give those answers out. So I would like to introduce Ms. Christine Gouillet from a Lancaster School District Special Ed Department, as well as Beverly Shoemaker, coming from both from the Special Ed Department, to be able to provide some significantly awesome answers to questions. I know I'm throwing it out there. I'm making you guys look. You guys are the geniuses right here. To be able to give, but basically just to be able to answer questions, but really be able to give some light as to what's going on with our students with disability in Lancaster.
Well, thank you very much, Christine and Beverly. Thank you so much for being with us. And I want to ask you, how does the Lancaster School District support the students with disabilities?
Great question. So to begin, I would just want to express our core beliefs. And students who receive special education services, we believe, are general education students first. The next thing is that students who receive special education services are part of our multi-tiered systems of support. And finally, that special education is a service, it's not a place.
Bueno, la pregunta fue cómo el Distrito Escolar de Lancaster apoya a los estudiantes con algunas disabilidades, con algunos retos, y dice, bueno, en primer lugar quiero decirles que la educación especial es primero que nada una educación general y que les estamos proporcionando a los estudiantes todo el apoyo que requieren para que puedan tener una vida exitosa. Now, like how many students do you have in special education?
Well, our district right now, we have about 15,000 students enrolled, just under 15,000, and about 12% of those are currently identified as having some sort of disability.
Estamos hablando, mi pregunta fue, ¿cuántos estudiantes de educación especial hay aproximadamente? Dijo, nuestros estudiantes que tenemos en el distrito son aproximadamente 15,000, y de esos 15,000, un aproximado de 12% tienen algún problema, no algún problema, sino ¿cómo se dice? Un reto especial que los coloca en la educación especial. Okay, specifically, how does the district support students with disabilities who are not English speakers? I can imagine that has to be a big challenge for you guys.
Right. Well, our goal is always to meet the needs of all students, and specifically with students who may not speak English, the first step is with the assessment that we conduct. We always want to make sure that it's in the student's primary language, and we want to differentiate and ensure that if a student is having difficulty, it's not due to the fact that they're learning English, for example, that there really is some sort of true disability. So we want to do some initial assessments to figure out what is the student's primary language.
Perfecto. Le estaba preguntando específicamente cómo el distrito escolar apoya a los estudiantes que tienen disabilidades, que no hablan inglés, que su lenguaje no es el inglés, su lenguaje natal. Dice, bueno, pues en primer lugar lo que hacemos es una evaluación de los estudiantes para darnos cuenta exactamente que el problema o la disabilidad que ellos tienen no es un problema derivado del inglés. I think in the past that happened a lot of times now, that because you were unable to speak English, you were placed in special education, even though when you didn't have any. The only disability was not speaking English perfectly.
Right. And that's not okay. So in the Lancaster School District, for example, the majority, I believe, at this point of our school psychologists are bilingual, and we do have support staff also who assist us in speaking Spanish, so we can help make that determination and ensure that we're making the appropriate recommendations to meet the needs of our students.
Bueno, le comentaba yo que en el pasado a muchas personas, a muchos estudiantes, se les identificaba como personas para ir a educación especial solamente porque no hablaban bien inglés. Dice, sí, efectivamente eso pasado, pero aquí en el distrito tenemos psicólogos que primero hacen una evaluación de la persona para saber que el problema pues es una cuestión de disabilidad y no un problema de lenguaje.
So
Mhm.
we want to make sure that our students who are non-English speakers, that we provide them with that language enriched environment. So making sure that they have access to the curriculum, that we provide them sentence frames and signage in the classrooms for particularly our younger ones, making sure that everything's labeled in English, so we're providing them that access, that language enriched environment.
Perfecto. Bueno, dice, entonces, en primer lugar tenemos bastante personal que nos apoya con el idioma español, también. Y bueno, y dice, y tenemos un currículum que hace énfasis en la cuestión del lenguaje. Entonces, estamos tratando de atender la disabilidad, mientras que también estamos tratando de enseñarles el idioma inglés. When we talk about disabilities, what kind of disabilities are we talking about? And how, more or less, how many?
That's a great question. Yeah. So the eligibility criteria is under the what's called IDEA. That's a special education law, and California Ed Code. And they have identified about 13 different disabilities under which a student can be found eligible. The most common are disabilities such as a specific learning disability, autism, speech language impairment, things like that. Those are the most common.
Le preguntaba yo cuáles son los, qué clase o los niños cómo se clasifican por sus deshabilidades. Y dice que el Código de Educación Especial identifica aproximadamente 13 deshabilidades. Así se dice, por ejemplo, el que tengas dificultades para aprender, o el que tengas autismo, o el que tengas cualquier otra disabilidad, aquí los atendemos. For example, if you have cerebral palsy, do you have many students enrolled with that disability?
We do have students who have cerebral palsy, and under the Ed Code, there's a disability criteria called orthopedic impairment that they might be eligible under, or sometimes another one called other health impairment. So it's through that assessment process where we determine the needs and really identify if the student meets criteria, because for each of those 13 different disabilities, there are specific criteria that the student must meet based on that assessment that determines whether or not they're eligible.
Le preguntaba yo si los niños que padecen una, ¿cómo se llama? Una incapacidad por ¿cómo se llama? Parálisis cerebral, que si también tienen niños. Dice, sí, nosotros clasificamos a todos los niños de acuerdo con lo que establece el código, y dice, hay incluso una categoría en el código que dice que son incapacidades ortopédicas, y también se les da servicio. How many teachers do you have, who are special education teachers?
Not enough.
All
Very
of you.
many.
We have
Very, very many.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know, it's so good, because I always admire people who not only are teachers, because they are forming the leaders of the future, but when they work with special education, you have to have something really great in
Absolutely.
yourself. So, bueno, le estaba diciendo cuántos maestros de educación especial tienen. Muchos.
However, can I make a plug real quick?
Sure,
If anybody does have the need to be able to, the want to become a special education teacher, we would love to have you in Lancaster School District.
Come see us.
We would love to be able to see people come in to be able to do that work. There's a couple of school sites that I've actually spoken to that are in a position where they really are in need of resources, special ed, just to be able to get into the classroom and be able to do that work.
Teachers, paraeducators.
Estamos diciendo que si hay alguna persona, maestros o ayudantes de maestros que quieren trabajar en educación especial, que le digo yo que a mí me parece que es una profesión muy noble, porque los maestros ya están formando los ciudadanos del futuro, pero cuando trabajas con estudiantes con necesidades especiales debes de tener un corazón muy grande, en mi opinión. We're going to take a break and we will be back.